I knew I was in for a fight the moment my helicopter was airlifted, yes, airlifted out of my backyard by order of the HOA president, who then sent me a bill and a note scrawled in red ink. Maybe now you'll trim your hedges. The kicker? I was 800 miles away on a medevac mission, saving a life, while these suburban despots decided my FAA-approved aircraft threatened their peace. This wasn't a mix-up, it was personal. Let me back up. I live in a semi-rural neighborhood, big lots, open skies, plenty of space. Years ago, I bought this property for its natural clearing, perfect for a private helipad. I'm a licensed pilot, ex-military, now flying freelance medevac and contract jobs. My helipad isn't a luxury, it's my office. The FAA approved it, the county signed off, but the HOA? They were not okay. It started with snarky notes taped to my fence. Aircraft don't belong in neighborhoods, this isn't a movie. Another, and signed, complained, your noise disturbs nesting owls. I fly twice a week, daytime only, following every regulation. I even rerouted my approach to avoid startling deer. But nothing satisfied Barbara. Barbara is who you'd expect, mid-50s, huge sunglasses, armed with a clipboard she wields like a scepter. She's the HOA president, self-appointed for 6 years because no one else wanted the gig. She once fined a neighbor for unauthorized purple petunias. To her, my helicopter wasn't equipment, it was defiance. Things escalated at a community meeting. Barbara stood, voice quivering with fake concern. An aircraft flies over our homes without HOA approval. We don't know what it carries or if it's safe. It could be spying on our kids. Gasps followed. I stood and said, Barbara, that's my helicopter. I'm FAA certified and saved 4 lives this year with it. She paused, then sneered. This isn't zoned for your ego. The room tittered. I expected drama, but not an ambush. One Friday, I was away flying an emergency kidney transplant delivery. Weather delayed my return, so I left the chopper on its helipad behind my garage, a note on my door with my contact info. 3 days later, I returned to an empty pad, scratched concrete, torn grass, and an HOA spring cleanup flyer. I thought it was stolen until I found the invoice from an aviation recovery firm 2 counties away. It listed the pickup, aircraft weight, hauling fee, and a note. Authorized by HOA President Barbara, with her signature. She'd had my helicopter towed like an abandoned car and billed me for it. I stared at that invoice, then laughed a wild, half-crazed laugh. Barbara had declared war, and I was ready to fly. My first call was to the FAA, where the agent nearly spit out his coffee. My second was to my cousin, Ethan, an aviation lawyer with a knack for legal loopholes. He confirmed Barbara's stunt was a massive over-reach, removing an aircraft from private property without consent or federal clearance violated property laws and FAA Part 91 regulations. She's in deep, Ethan said, glee in his voice. While he filed complaints with the FAA and county, I drove to the impound lot. The manager looked uneasy. We were told it was a hazard, he said, showing me an HOA work order signed by Barbara. My helicopter sat amid rusty lawn chairs and forgotten drones, dusted and disrespected. This wasn't just a prank, it was sabotage. I signed a release, inspected every rotor, and flew it home, fury simmering. That night, an idea sparked. Helicopters are loud, sure, but they're also precise. They can hover, carry loads, drop payloads. What if I accidentally fertilized a certain HOA event with, say, biodegradable manure from a local farm? I scrolled Craigslist and found a used manure spreader attachment for agricultural drainage, a bucket with a remote dump, adaptable to my rig. The seller, a grizzled farmer named Hank, grinned when I hinted at my plan. Not for crops, is it? He asked. Special delivery, I replied. He threw in extra compost, chuckling. I heard the HOA's quarterly outdoor meeting was Saturday, a community celebration, with chairs, banners, and Barbara's speech on order and chaos. Perfect timing. Then a neighbor, Paul, whispered at the store. They invited Senator Hawkins. Barbara wanted to impress him for a zoning board seat. Dropping manure near a senator was risky, bad headlines. Worse consequences. I scrapped the mass drop, but hatched a sharper plan. I built a cardboard cutout of Barbara's sunglasses, clipboard, smug pose, and staked it near the meeting area. I'd target it, not the crowd, with pinpoint precision. I spent days tweaking the bucket, testing drops with sandbags, and logging GPS coordinates. I added a camera for proof and a fail-safe to abort if altitude dipped. My flight plan, filed as a community flyover for agricultural mapping, was vague but legal. Saturday dawned clear. The HOA's banners fluttered, chairs filled with residents, reporters, and the senator. Barbara stood at a podium, basking in applause. My cardboard decoy waited off to the side, a paper tyrant. From 500 feet up, I heard her speech begin. Winds were calm, GPS locked. I hovered, hands on the release, and muttered into the recorder. For every HOA boss who forgot they serve, not rule. I hit the switch. The bucket opened with a soft hum. Manure rained in a perfect arc, flattening the cardboard Barbara in a glorious burst of straw and compost. From above, it was art. Below, chaos. People screamed. Chairs tipped. Barbara shrieked louder than my rotors. The senator ducked behind a binder. A kid yelled. The owls fought back. I hovered briefly, then flew home, catching a glimpse of Barbara pointing skyward, flailing like she could swat me down. I landed, headset still on, when Ethan called. You're viral. Some teen posted it 20,000 views in 30 minutes. I groaned and laughed. How bad? Legally, you're clean. Morally, you're a hero. By evening, police arrived not in force, just 2 weary officers. This the launch site? One asked. I showed them the flight plan, footage, GPS logs, and the bucket's 100% biodegradable disclaimer. They watched the drop, one muttering. That's impressive. They left with Ethan's card, agreeing no crime occurred, just an aerial composting event. Barbara, though, went nuclear. HOA inboxes flooded with resignation demands. The senator's office dodged future events. Barbara's driveway press conference was crashed by teens in cardboard clipboards chanting, "The sky knows." By week's end, the HOA board ousted her in an emergency vote. She threatened lawsuits, but the Manure drop video, now set to Sweet Caroline, drowned her out. The neighborhood split. Barbara's loyalists, who policed mailbox colors, versus the Free Skies crew, who gave me thumbs-ups. Even neutrals admired the audacity. Barbara sued me for endangerment and agricultural assault, but Ethan called it a tantrum. With FAA logs, video, and witnesses confirming no harm, her case flopped. The video hit 1 million views, earning headlines like "Pilot Drops Truth on HOA" and nicknames like Captain Fertilizer. The FAA closed their inquiry, noting I followed guidelines. The sheriff's office did the same. Barbara's crusade became her undoing. The HOA limped on, debating new leadership or dissolution. Paul invited me to a backyard meeting with 20 residents tired of Barbara's reign. I shared the towing story, FAA letters, and flight plan. Someone handed me a beer. "Run for president," a woman, Claire, said. I laughed. Me? I'd rather fly. Paul grinned. "You'd in meetings with a flyover." I brushed it off, but saw their point. Change comes from stepping up, not just dropping payloads. Barbara's final act was a meltdown at her farewell town hall. "Cameras rolling," she screamed. "This community's been hijacked by a man with a flying outhouse." The crowd laughed. You cheered him. What's next? Crop dusters. The new president, a retired nurse named Ellen, gently took the mic. Barbara stormed off, muttering about better neighborhoods. Someone shouted, "Flyover for her exit?" She moved out days later, leaving a note. "You don't deserve me." A teen waved a cardboard helicopter as she left, dropping leaves for effect. Ellen asked me to consult on airspace rules. I agreed, but only if we ditched fines for things like unapproved birdhouses. "Deal," she said. Then the FAA sent a surprise, a letter and novelty certificate for aerial environmental outreach, signed with, "Next time, try glittery Xeron sensors." I hung it in my garage beside the bucket. I didn't run for president. Barbara's fall reset the neighborhood. Bylaws eased, kids biked freely. Claire painted her door teal, no fines. The helicopter became a mascot. Kids waved at takeoffs. A neighbor painted, "Land here if Barbara returns," on his shed. Months later, I got a gold-embossed invite to the Suburban Safety Conference, curated by Senator Hawkins' office, to speak on innovative conflict resolution. I went, told the story towing, legal steps, then the manure drop. The slide of the payload hitting cardboard. Barbara got gasps, laughs, and one heresy. I explained it wasn't chaos, but satire against overreach. Rules protect, not control. I got a standing ovation and consulting offers. The speech went viral, dubbed the Fertilizer Rebellion. My mailbox filled with letters from pilots and homeowners facing their own Karens. One guy sent a photo with a Compost the Tyrant sign. The FAA sent a plaque for innovative conflict resolution from the skies. I hung it by the certificate. The bucket stayed grounded. I didn't need it again. That drop said enough. When tyranny rises, creativity hits harder than words. My helicopter's still there, a symbol that some fly higher not to rule, but to remind everyone freedom's worth defending.